Pay attention to the image on the surveillance footage. February 14, 2019, 2:47 a.m. A residential street in suburban Cleveland, Ohio. Notice the figure crouched near the foundation of 428 Maple Grove Drive. The thermal imaging camera catches him there for 11 minutes. He's not breaking in through a window. He's not picking a lock. He's disappearing into the ground. His name is Colin Mercer. He is 37 years old, unemployed, and living 3 houses down at 416 Maple Grove Drive. For the past 8 months, he has been digging. By sunrise, a teenage girl would be reported missing from 428 Maple Grove Drive. Within 72 hours, police would discover that Colin Mercer hadn't just been targeting one home. He'd been tunneling beneath an entire neighborhood. And the girl he took wasn't his first victim. This was not a break-in. It was an underground invasion. At 7:15 a.m. on February 14th, Marie Abbott entered her daughter's bedroom to wake her for school. The bed was empty. The window was locked from the inside. 16-year-old Emma Abbott was gone. Marie checked the bathroom, the basement, the garage. She called Emma's phone. It rang once, then went to voicemail. She called Emma's best friend. Emma hadn't spent the night there. By 7:45 a.m., Marie was dialing 911. Cleveland Police Department patrol officers arrived at 428 Maple Grove Drive at 8:03 a.m. They conducted a standard missing teen protocol. No signs of forced entry. No disturbance. Emma's phone, wallet, and jacket were missing. Her laptop sat closed on her desk. Her homework was half finished. The initial assumption was simple: teenage runaway, Valentine's Day, boyfriend issues. She'd turn up. Detective Angela Reeves thought differently. Emma Abbott was a junior with a 3.8 GPA. She was on the debate team. She'd been accepted early admission to Ohio State. Her social media showed no distress, no conflict, no indication of flight. The last post had been uploaded at 10:47 p.m. the night before. A photo of chemistry notes with the caption, "Orgo is trying to end me." By noon, Reeves had escalated the case. This wasn't a runaway. This was an abduction. The question was how. At 2:30 p.m., the forensic team made a discovery in Emma's basement. Faint scratch marks on the concrete floor near the water heater. Fresh, concrete dust. When they moved a storage shelf, they found it. A section of the floor that sounded hollow when tapped. They brought in ground-penetrating radar. The scan showed a void space beneath the foundation. An excavated tunnel approximately 4 feet high and 3 feet wide. It ran directly under Emma's house, originating from somewhere outside the property line. At 4:15 p.m., officers began searching the perimeter. They found the entry point in a drainage culvert 40 feet behind the Abbott home. Someone had removed the grate and dug down 6 feet. From there, the tunnel branched in multiple directions. Reeves requested a K-9 unit and the county's technical rescue team. What they discovered over the next 6 hours would redefine the entire investigation. The tunnel didn't just connect to the Abbott residence. It connected to 4 homes on Maple Grove Drive. Each tunnel terminated in a crawl space or basement. Each had been carefully excavated over months. Each had been accessed multiple times. The soil was compressed, the walls reinforced with salvaged lumber. Someone had built an underground network beneath a residential neighborhood. Someone had been entering homes through their foundations. And someone had taken Emma Abbott through that tunnel in the middle of the night. By 9:00 p.m., the entire street was evacuated. Floodlights illuminated the drainage culvert. Tactical teams prepared to enter the tunnel system. The rescue was now a recovery operation, and time was critical. Detective Reeves studied the tunnel map. 4 homes connected. The Abbott residence at 428, the Martinez family at 424, the elderly Callahan couple at 420, and a vacant rental property at 416. She ran the addresses through the database. The rental at 416 Maple Grove had 1 occupant, Colin Mercer, 37 years old. No criminal record. Unemployment benefits. Moved in 9 months ago. 9 months. The timeline aligned perfectly with when the tunnels would have been started. At 10:22 p.m., officers approached 416 Maple Grove Drive. The lights were off. No vehicle in the driveway. They knocked. No answer. They obtained an emergency search warrant and breached the door at 11:05 p.m. The house was empty, but the basement was not. They found the primary access point immediately, a wooden trapdoor in the basement floor, concealed beneath a sheet of plywood and a ratty area rug. When they lifted it, they saw a ladder descending into darkness. The tunnel mouth was reinforced with 2x4s. Electric work lights had been strung along the ceiling, powered by a generator in the corner. This wasn't amateur work. This was infrastructure. The tunnel extended in 3 directions from Mercer's basement. One branch led west toward the drainage culvert, the escape route. One branch led east toward the connected homes, and one branch led north, deeper under Mercer's property, toward what appeared to be an expanded chamber. The tactical team descended. What they found in that chamber would turn the missing person case into something far worse. The underground room was approximately 12 feet by 10 feet. The walls were dirt, shored up with plywood panels, a camping cot, a space heater, a battery-powered lantern, and a metal eye bolt anchored into a wooden support beam. Attached to the eye bolt was a chain. Attached to the chain was a padlock. The padlock was open. Emma Abbott was not there, but evidence of her was everywhere. A torn piece of fabric that matched her pajamas, strands of long brown hair, and fresh scratches in the dirt floor. Drag marks leading toward the tunnel branch that connected to the drainage. Culvert. Emma had been here. She was no longer here, and Colin Mercer had taken her somewhere else. At 11:47 p.m., Detective Reeves issued an APB for Colin Mercer. Vehicle description: 2004 Honda Civic, gray, Ohio plates. Subject considered dangerous. Possible kidnapping in progress. The search expanded citywide. At 1:33 a.m. on February 15th, a patrol unit spotted Mercer's Honda parked outside a condemned warehouse in Cleveland's industrial district. The building had been scheduled for demolition. Mercer's vehicle was empty. The warehouse door was ajar. SWAT surrounded the structure. Thermal imaging detected 2 heat signatures inside, one stationary on the ground floor, one moving on the second level. At 2:10 a.m., they entered. They found Emma Abbott on the ground floor, chained to a support column. She was unconscious, but breathing. Hypothermic, dehydrated. Her wrists were raw from restraints. She was wearing only her pajamas. The temperature inside the warehouse was 32 degrees. Colin Mercer was apprehended on the second floor without resistance. He was carrying a backpack containing rope, duct tape, a hunting knife, and Emma's cell phone. When officers asked where he was going, he said nothing. Emma Abbott was transported to Metro Health Medical Center. She was treated for exposure, dehydration, and shock. She would survive, physically at least, but the investigation was far from over. The forensic examination of Colin Mercer's tunnel system began at dawn on February 15th. Structural engineers determined the network had been under construction for at least 7 months. The excavated soil had been removed in 5-gallon buckets and dumped in various locations: a nearby park, a construction site, scattered in the woods behind the neighborhood. Mercer had worked alone. He'd dug at night. He'd reinforced the tunnels with materials stolen from construction sites. He'd run electricity from his basement using extension cords. He'd been methodical, patient, and careful. The question was why he'd built such an elaborate system, and whether Emma Abbott was his only target. Detective Reeves began interviewing the other families on Maple Grove Drive. The Martinez family at 424 had 2 daughters, ages 12 and 14. The Callahans at 420 were in their 70s. None of them had noticed anything unusual. No strange sounds, no missing items, no indication their homes had been accessed from below. But the forensic team found evidence that contradicted those statements. In the crawl space beneath the Martinez home, investigators found boot prints in the dust. The prints led from the tunnel access point to the furnace room, then to the interior basement stairs. Someone had been inside the house, multiple times. In the Martinez daughters' bedrooms, they found something more disturbing. Small items were missing. A hairbrush, a hoodie, a photograph from a bulletin board. Mrs. Martinez confirmed the items had been there weeks ago. She'd assumed her daughters had misplaced them. They hadn't misplaced anything. Colin Mercer had taken them. In the Callahan residence, the evidence was different but equally unsettling. Food had been disappearing from the refrigerator. Small amounts, a sandwich, some fruit, a can of soda. Mr. Callahan had joked about his wife's memory failing. She'd insisted she wasn't forgetting. Someone was eating their food. She'd been right. Mercer had been entering their home through the basement tunnel, taking food, and leaving. The Callahans had been feeding their stalker without knowing he existed. The vacant rental at 416 yielded the most damning evidence. Mercer's laptop. The digital forensics team unlocked the laptop on February 16th. What they found inside expanded the scope of the investigation beyond Maple Grove Drive. Mercer had been documenting his activities. Hundreds of photographs, surveillance footage from a hidden camera he'd installed in his own tunnel, screenshots of social media profiles, and detailed notes about the residents of Maple Grove Drive. The Martinez daughters, their schedules, their routines, what time they left for school, what time they came home, whether their parents were home, which daughter slept in which bedroom, Emma Abbott, her college plans, her extracurricular activities, her boyfriend's name, her Valentine's Day plans, which hadn't included sleeping at home that night. Mercer had been tracking her for months. He'd known she would be home alone on February 14th. But the laptop contained something else, something that turned the case from kidnapping to serial predation. Maps of 3 other neighborhoods in Cleveland, satellite images of backyards and drainage systems, notes about soil composition and foundation types, and photographs of tunnels in various stages of construction. Colin Mercer hadn't just built one underground network, he'd been building multiple systems across the city. On February 18th, Cleveland PD executed search warrants at the 3 other locations Mercer had mapped. 2 were in residential neighborhoods similar to Maple Grove Drive. 1 was near a middle school. At the first location, a suburb called Lakewood, they found another tunnel system. This one connected to 2 homes. Both families had teenage daughters. Neither family had reported anything unusual, but when investigators checked, they found the same evidence. Missing items, boot prints in crawl spaces, tunnels terminating beneath bedrooms. Mercer had been inside those homes too. At the second location, a neighborhood in Parma, they found a tunnel still under construction. It had been started recently, within the last month. The excavation was less sophisticated, but the intent was clear. Mercer had been expanding his operations. At the third location, near Jefferson Middle School, they found something that made Detective Reeves physically ill. A completed tunnel that ran from a storm drain directly under the school playground. It terminated beneath the girls' locker room. Mercer had been digging under a middle school. The FBI joined the investigation on February 19th. The case was now classified as a serial predator operation. Mercer's tunnels weren't just about Emma Abbott. They were about access, surveillance, control. He'd been building a network that would allow him to enter homes, watch families, and select victims without ever being seen. The interrogation of Colin Mercer began on February 20th. He refused to speak without an attorney present. His public defender arrived that afternoon. Mercer was shown the evidence: the tunnels, the photographs, the laptop files, the items taken from homes. He sat in silence for 2 hours. Finally, through his attorney, he made a statement. He wanted a deal, reduced charges in exchange for information about the other tunnels. He claimed there were more, locations he hadn't mapped, places police hadn't found yet. The FBI refused. The evidence was overwhelming. They didn't need his cooperation. They would find the other sites themselves. Mercer said nothing else. Colin Mercer was indicted on February 28, 2019. The charges included kidnapping, burglary, stalking, attempted kidnapping, trespassing, possession of burglary tools, and endangering children. Ohio does not have a specific statute for underground home invasion. Prosecutors charged him under existing laws, stacking counts to ensure maximum sentencing. The trial began on September 9, 2019. The prosecution presented overwhelming physical evidence: the tunnels, the laptop, the photographs, the items taken from homes, Emma Abbott's torn pajamas, and the chain that had held her in the underground chamber. The defense argued diminished capacity. Mercer's attorney presented psychiatric evaluations claiming severe social anxiety, agoraphobia, and delusional thinking. The tunnels, they argued, were not about predation. They were about isolation. Mercer had been trying to create a world where he didn't have to interact with people above ground. The kidnapping of Emma Abbott was an impulsive act, not part of a larger pattern. The prosecution countered with the laptop evidence, the surveillance, the stalking, the systematic targeting of teenage girls, the multiple tunnel sites. This wasn't delusion. This was planning. Emma Abbott testified on September 12th. She described waking in the underground chamber, the cold, the darkness, the chain, the hours she'd spent not knowing if she would survive. She did not look at Colin Mercer during her testimony. When asked if she wanted to make a statement to the defendant, she said 4 words: "He took my safety." The jury deliberated for 9 hours. On September 16, 2019, they returned a verdict: guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge addressed Colin Mercer directly. Mercer had built a network designed to terrorize, invade, and victimize. He had stolen not just items, but peace of mind. He had turned homes into hunting grounds. The sentence reflected that intent. Colin Mercer was sentenced to 43 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Emma Abbott spent 6 weeks in intensive therapy after her rescue. She graduated from high school in 2020. She deferred her admission to Ohio State for 1 year. She now works as a victim advocate for the Ohio Crime Victim Justice Center. The Abbott family moved from Maple Grove Drive in March 2019. They sold the house at a loss. No one has lived there since. The Martinez family also relocated. Their daughters received counseling. The eldest daughter, Sophia, testified at Mercer's trial about the items that had been taken from her room. She described feeling violated in her own home. That testimony helped prosecutors establish the pattern of stalking behavior. The Callahans remained in their home until 2021, when Mr. Callahan's health declined and they moved to assisted living. Mrs. Callahan never went into the basement again after learning about the tunnel. The Cleveland City Council passed an ordinance in 2020 requiring annual structural inspections of rental properties, including basement and crawl space integrity checks. The law is informally known as the Emma Abbott Act. The FBI's investigation into Colin Mercer's activities concluded in 2020. They confirmed the existence of tunnel systems at 7 locations across Cleveland. 4 were under residential neighborhoods. 1 was near a school. 2 were incomplete, abandoned when Mercer shifted focus to new sites. At one site in the Tremont neighborhood, investigators found a completed tunnel beneath a daycare center. Mercer had dug from a nearby vacant lot directly under the building's foundation. The tunnel terminated beneath the nap room where 2-year-olds slept every afternoon. That tunnel had been there for 5 months before police found it. During that time, Mercer had accessed the crawl space beneath the daycare at least a dozen times. He'd never entered the building itself. He'd simply been there, watching, waiting. The daycare closed permanently in March 2020. In September 2023, the Cleveland Police Department released a statement confirming that all known Mercer tunnel sites had been filled, sealed, and structurally reinforced. The cost exceeded $400,000. Most of that funding came from a victim's assistance grant and private donations. Emma Abbott attended the final tunnel closure ceremony. She stood with Detective Angela Reeves as construction crews poured the last load of concrete into the entrance at the Maple Grove Drive drainage culvert. Emma didn't make a speech. She didn't need to. The tunnel that had taken her safety was gone. The underground network that had violated her home and terrorized her community was gone. Emma Abbott survived. She rebuilt her life. She helps others do the same. That's what matters most. The house at 416 Maple Grove Drive was demolished in 2021. The lot remains vacant. On warm evenings, neighbors on Maple Grove Drive still sit on their porches. They still let their children play in the yards. Life has returned to something resembling normal. But every family on that street now has security cameras. Every basement is checked regularly. Every strange sound is investigated immediately. They know now what can happen beneath the surface. They know that safety is not guaranteed by locked doors and windows. They know that danger can come from below. The tunnels are gone. The fear remains. And Colin Mercer has 37 more years to think about what he built in the darkness.